Welcome to another edition of PENSDOWN. Here, journalists tell us all they go through while gathering the news, while preparing to get you those programs on television, radio, and while putting together all those stories in the newspapers, online magazines, and the rest. On this platform, the journalism careers of journalists is the subject matter. King Nobert Akpablie is my guest. He is an award-winning communications specialist who has diverse experiences in journalism, public relations, and communications engineering. I'm interested in that one. While studying at Ho Technical University, he started his journalism career at the campus-based radio station, Volta Premier FM, as a presenter and a studio technician. He has since practiced for over a decade, working with Accra-based City FM and City TV, as well as other Volta region-based FM stations, mainly as a media consultant. He has worked on a number of projects from the Volta region that has impacted communities by evoking the needed attention and response from people that matter. He is the co-founder of online news portal VoltaOnlineGH.com. As a communications engineering technician, he has helped to set up a number of radio and TV station studios in Ghana. He has HND in telecommunications engineering and both bachelor's and master's in communications studies, public relations option from the Ghana Institute of Journalism. He is currently reading for his Master of Science in Engineering Management. King Nobert Akpablie is my guest today. You're welcome, my brother.
Thank you very much, Steve. It's nice to be on this platform with you.
Communications engineering. That is, we are having somebody who is a backroom person and also a field person, sometimes even on screen. You know, how are you combining all these? You can manage the backroom, you can present, you can report. How do you manage all these things?
I think it's been an exciting journey for me as an individual, especially when you have knowledge on how the production works are done, and at the same time how the messages or information are being transmitted to our target audience. I think it's been exciting having control over all.
Right. How did you end up in journalism in the first place?
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
So, Steve, some of the best discoveries or breakthroughs were by accident. And as a scientist or as an engineer, I know quite a number of those discoveries that were as a result of accident. And so I would say I was an accidental journalist. Yes, because I started off hoping and planning to become an engineer or a telecom engineer way back in secondary school. But I knew I had passion for writing. I had passion for reading, that I knew. But I couldn't figure out at the time how I intend to use or make good use of that talent or that passion in me. And so when I had opportunity to enroll and study engineering in a university, that is the Ho Technical University, right behind the engineering department is a studio, campus studio.
Okay.
Volta Premier FM.
Okay.
So I told myself, why don't I take advantage of this opportunity? Because I've always had a passion. So I walked to the studio and I met the manager, and I told the manager, I want to work here as a presenter. And he asked, what course do you offer in the school? And I told him, I'm an engineer, or I'm an engineering student. And he was like, no, we mainly engage people in marketing, people in accounting and communication and the rest. But as an engineer, I'm wondering how you can even be a presenter. But looking at your passion, the only role I can give you is to come as our technician. So I started off as a radio technician, and essentially what I do is to wake up at dawn, go to the studio, check the transmission room, check the transmitters, check all the equipment, and make sure the microphones are working.
Mm,
The studio equipment, everything is in place. The sounds and everything are in place before the host starts the show. And so I've been doing that for a couple of months. When one early morning Saturday, the main host for a particular program was not around. The guests were available, and the program manager had to call me from home and tell
mm,
me, Nobert, are you around? I said, yes, I need you to do this for me. I need you to host these people. But I'm sending you a synopsis with questionnaires attached. And I want you to go according to these questions that I want you to ask a guest. Don't go beyond it. And I repeat, don't go beyond it. Those were his words. Michael and Elamse was then the program's manager.
mm.
And so I went to the studio, started off, and I noticed I could go beyond what my boss has asked me to. So I took the risk and I engaged further the guest on the show. And the show became an exciting show that he later called me to congratulate me and also tell me the university community were impressed with their new presenter. Little did they
Whoa.
know that this presenter was actually a technician in the studio. And
Mm,
so that became the beginning of my story. And it has been an exciting journey for me, especially for someone who has a background in engineering and at the same time has a background in journalism. I get to see the backstage and also see the presentation of the information as well as the transmission of the information to our listeners. And I think it has been an exciting journey for me.
wow. Now, that risk you took by adding your own follow-up questions, what if it had backfired? Because you had put your own job, the small technician job you were doing, you had also put it on the line.
And like I told you, as a scientist, I knew in everything you need to take the risk, and
Mm,
it is in the risk that you get your breakthroughs.
mm,
And so I was ready for it. I was ready for the failure. I was ready for the success of that risk that I've taken at the time. And I'm glad it came out good. And I want to believe that was the master plan from the universe. The universe
mm,
had planned it, and
yeah.
it worked perfectly for me at the time when I took that bold step.
Mm. What stands out as the most challenging assignments you ever undertook?
Well, throughout my career as a journalist, there were two instances.
Mm,
The first instance was during the Konya Alavanyo crisis,
okay.
where you are compelled as a journalist to be in the midst of uh, the
Mm,
gunshots, hearing people firing at each other, uh, looking at the hostile environment, and then considering the nature of our job in this part of the country where certain safety protocols are not respected.
yeah.
You put your life at risk staying in such an environment and reporting because your listeners would want to know what is happening.
Mm,
Authorities want to know what is going on.
yeah.
And so you would have to put your life on the line to make sure you give them all the information that they need. And I think that was a very, very challenging moment for me
Mm,
in those days. And then the second one has to do with operations of a company around the southern sector, a salt
okay.
mining company, where its operation was affecting the livelihood of the people. and also affecting the environment. And so there were agitations from the people. There were clashes between the people and the company operators. Lives were lost and a lot of unrest in that community. And I found myself to be one of the reporters who were interested in the stories over there. And I think it was so challenging the stories over there. And I think it was so challenging because you probably used to play a role safely so that you are not seen being on the side of the company nor being on the side of the people, because the company will tell you we have had all licenses, permission from all the authorities there, assembly and what have you. We have all those licenses and we are free to operate. And the community also tells you that this operation is not environmentally sustainable. It's affecting them. There are trees, especially the coconut trees along the coast, are all dying off. They are not able to get good water, potable water. The wells we store their water are all drying up as a result of the activities of the company. And so you are torn between the two situations. But at the end of the day, it's about how you went about it as a journalist. And I want to say it was challenging, but we sailed through, and finally peace prevailed. And I want to say that one of the lessons I've learned in such an assignment is that much as we have regulators in the country, some of these regulations should be more adaptive. And when I say adaptive, I mean regulation that looks at the bottom up approach, so that we consider the peculiar nature of certain environment and operations of such companies. And when once that is done, then the people are also convinced and they are able to accept the company to operate. And the company is also allowed to operate safely so that it doesn't affect the livelihood of the people and also the environment where the people stay. And I think it's very important for us. And fortunately, I even had an award from that particular project during the maiden edition of the Ghana Journalist Awards in the region, in the Volta region. I had an award from that particular assignment. And those are the two major assignments for me.
What do you think from your end is accounting for the increasing attrition in journalism? So many of our colleagues are abandoning the craft. What is happening? What do you think is causing this?
I think largely as a result of lack of motivation at the various media houses, because if you are a worker, you are looking at two things. You are looking at how you are being celebrated or recognized in the office that you work or the environment that you work. You are also looking at possibility of growth in whatever field you are. And when those things are not there, you don't feel motivated to give out your best. And I want to say that journalism is largely driven by passion. You can be a good writer, you can be a good speaker, but if you don't have the passion for the job, you fail along the line, or you even stop doing it along the line. And I want to say that one of the things that I've observed in the media terrain lately, it's the motivation. And of course, when we look at motivation, we also look at the salaries of some of our journalists. How are they being paid? What's the job security? There are people that wake up in the morning and go into the office and are not too sure if they are able to hold on to that job the next day. You may go to the office today and then you'll be sacked. So you don't have job security, and you also don't have a better salary scheme for you.
Some are not being paid at all.
Some are not being paid at all. And I think those are some of the key factors that are pushing our people away from the microphone and entering the boardrooms, becoming PRs and what have you. So the press freedom largely is under attack. Of course, you don't expect certain businesses to see journalists, playing the watchdog roles. They are not happy. People are just not comfortable. And so they will try as much as possible to frustrate the system. And again, that is what is happening in the lives of many of our colleagues. And once the passion is no longer there, they begin to think elsewhere.
Have you ever been threatened in the line of duty, whether you or somebody connected to you, because of your work?
Yes. For threats, they do come because, like I said, if you are watching over somebody and probably the person is not doing the right thing, he or she is a bit uncomfortable about your presence, and it will definitely take actions to scare you away. And I want to say that those are some of the common things that happen to most of us in the field. And I want to recall one experience that I had. I traveled up north to the Volta region, the northern part, then now the OT region, then Volta region, whilst working on stories. I got back home and I noticed everything in my room in fact, the whole room was emptied. So there was a break in and practically packed everything, like whoever was responsible, you can't tell. But during those periods, we've had threats, we had people calling you and warning you on some of the stories that you've done. And so I came home and my door was left ajar. I opened and the hall was empty. I had just my bed in the bedroom to lie on. And I think those are some of the challenges some of us face whilst practicing. And
You
a
mean
lot more.
people
A lot
had
more.
that much
People,
time on their hands to empty your room?
yeah. Yes.
How many days were you away? This is interesting.
Usually, those days wasn't a time for social media where people would post things happening around where you can just make a quick follow up. Those days, you need to travel. You need to travel and stay with the community. Acquaint yourself with the people in the community to get to know what is happening. And so
build trust.
I was away for close to about a month. Close to about a month I was away. And whilst away, I was firing my stories from there. We call it firing, So I file the stories and they file the stories, they'll fire. And at that point, people were not comfortable with some of the stories that were coming up. And most of it were about bad road networks, poor electricity connectivity, lack of potable water for the people in certain communities. And people were just not comfortable. So you were receiving threats and stuff.
Infrastructural challenges of the areas.
Yeah, so you come back home and see an empty room. It tells you that people just want to make you feel uncomfortable so that you can succumb to their interests or serve the interests of the status quo.
I am curious, after that incident, you return from the battlefield, quote unquote, and then you see your room has been empty. That means the enemy came behind the scenes to also destroy the little you left behind. Did that single incident almost make you rethink your decision to do journalism?
Well, I rather thought I rather saw it as a motivation to say that yes, maybe what you are doing really is making people the bad people in the society uncomfortable, and which means that you should do more because some of those stories after you've done it, you see people that matter responding, intervening, and providing what is needed, and you see smiles on the faces of those people or the rural folks and all of that. And so I see it more of a motivation although it was a challenge to me to have to start all over, but I see it as a motivation, and that at the time motivated me more to give out my best in the field and help society, because my first obligation is to the citizen, and that is the nature of our job. And I also want to add that journalism, if it were to be a religious activity, would relate it to the life of a Catholic priest,
Okay.
where you vow to poverty. You vow to poverty. And that vow to poverty means you choose to renounce all your personal worldly possessions and instead engage in communal sharing of resources, engage in helping your society. And when you do that, you gain a social license. And when you have a social license of the people, you are happy, impacting lives. And that is the real essence of journalism. And so I see it as a divine call. Yeah, it's a divine calling. If you are practicing as a journalist, it's a divine calling, because you are put in a position to watch all the political decisions that are made on daily basis, to watch all business and trade transactions that happen, to watch criminal networks operate in various ways, and also expose them, and also ensure that the public interest is always upheld, to ensure that people's lives are improved. And so you are put in a very important position once you become a journalist. And that is why I describe it as a divine calling. And so it's a motivation during those periods for us.
Have you ever been approached with anything, money or material, that, oh, this story you are doing, forget about it, kill the story and take this?
Well, excuse me, a bit under the weather, but yeah. Well, journalism has always been under such scrutiny from people who have their own interest, and it's various ways of filtering, because once you are working on a story, before the story is aired, eventually it goes through a lot of filtering. You have your owner's interest, that's the ownership of the media house interest. You have the political ideology at the time, their interest. You would have advertisers controlling what comes out, and a lot more. And so there are a lot of influences or filtering that happens before the final story is aired. And by the time it gets to you, you are left with just a crumb of the whole cake, where you are supposed to feed the people with. And that is when you also see another set of people or group of people coming to you and not directly telling you to drop the story, but indirectly, telling you, forget about this story. We can do something else. So you have this money. But at the end of the day, you should see the interest of the public and make sure you protect it. Because once you allow such things to influence your work, you are failing the society. You are failing that universe that has given you the skill or the craft to practice journalism. And so if you are a journalist who trust government, who think that the men and women who run the nation understand the importance of social and economic needs of the people, and then they put it before their personal desires, then you don't need to be in this organization or this profession. Because when you see people in authority, they have to be constantly pushed. They have to be constantly checked to ensure that they follow the required standards. Because if you trust them, they will always abuse power. And then we are in a country where, or a continent where our power distance index is so high. And when I say power distance index is a measurement of substance of a hierarchy of power and work by individuals who make up the general population of the nation. So when you have somebody, say a rich man somewhere, politicians somewhere, the tendency for us as citizens to respect those people and see their words and their actions as sacrosanct, as perfect, is so high in this part of the world. And so if you are a journalist, you are supposed to be checking the activities of those people, because where the power distance is high, definitely there's abuse.
Yeah.
There's an abuse of power. So that is very important if you're a journalist. And as you are exposed to these influences, as you are exposed to these monies or material stuff, it tends to affect your objectivity. Yes, human beings are subjective, but when you are working, your work has to be objective. And how do you ensure an objective delivery? You ensure that by avoiding all forms of inducement, because when inducement come in, you will be tempted to what tilt the story to benefit whoever is sponsoring you. So those are some of the challenges we face in the field.
Are you doing journalism for life?
Of course, when you look at my bag, you can see the backdrop there. That is Volta Online.
Yeah.
Volta Online is our baby project that we are working three journalists, two colleagues and I, who are working on this particular project to protect the Volta region in terms of tourism, in terms of events that happen, in terms of businesses and all of that. And so we are in for journalism for life.
How has social media changed the face of journalism?
Well, social media really improved the work of the journalist, because the early days of journalism where social media wasn't that active, it was difficult for journalists to reach out to more people. And so we just have just about few media houses operating. And if you are not privileged to have a radio set or a television set in your home, you are not able to hear what is happening around. But with the help of social media, right there in your palm, you are reading what is happening across the world and in your country. You are reading in real time or watching in real time whatever is happening in Accra whilst you're in the Volta region. And through the power of social media, you don't need to carry a television set to your workplace or to the farm to know what is happening. And I think that's the beauty that social media has brought into the field of journalism. And I want to say that as media organizations, some are taking good advantage of this opportunity and expanding their reach. And I think that is the way to go. And also it's a way of empowering the citizens and encouraging citizen journalism. And so you have people in communities, when things are happening, they're able to capture it and send to media houses for them to use. And again, like I earlier stated, media publications in a typical traditional media house passes through a lot of filtering. A lot of interest must be served. So at the end of the day, the product that comes out for the public becomes a sanitized and a safe product that fails to serve the public interest, but rather serve the interest of the status quo. People who are in positions, advertisers, political leaders, and what have you. But with social media, all those information that are needed are easily given out to the public, because you will not have full control. But if it's a traditional media, all those actors, all those big people would always have control over what comes out. There's always censorship, whether we like it or not. But with social media in my palm, I'm able to capture events just as it was, and then send it through the main media. And so the main media is compelled to work on such stories. And I think it's a real exposure. It's a real eye-opening experience for new journalists. And also, it's another challenge for us to also be able to identify fake news in journalism. And so we have some new crop of journalists who are venturing into that aspect of journalism, where they are able to verify the news as and when they come. Because with social media, you should also expect the fake ones springing up. And so once we have the verification business activated in our business, then it makes us more professional, and it also encourages the citizens to also contribute to our work.
Should journalists be licensed?
No, journalism shouldn't be licensed. At least from our constitution, if we should license journalists, it means, you know, it becomes an affront to the press freedom.
Okay.
It becomes an affront to the press freedom in the sense that if a particular government in power, yeah, we can all agree that once it's been licensed, we have a licensing authority. But believe me or not, there will always be control. There will always be political control on who is licensed and who is not. And so once you make it to be a licensing profession, then it is very difficult for us, and it affects the press freedom that we are all trying to promote.
In fact, Etonam say on this platform said that if we should license journalists, somebody like Manasseh Azuri Awuni, even if he gets a license and it is to be renewed, whoever is in power may decide never. This man must find a new job.
Exactly so. Etonam is a good friend. I remember the days of the Alavanyo Nkunya crisis. We've been in the thick and the thin of it. We've been covering it together. Yes, it's a wonderful lady, very brilliant lady, and I think she's right. She's right in saying so. And I think it is in the same sense that even with the radio and TV frequency allocations, regulator, which is the National Communications Authority, gives what we call authorization and not license. So that differentiates it, because once they make it look it's a license, then it means we are trying to, distract press freedom. And so I don't think journalists should be licensed.
Is press freedom a reality in Ghana today? Is the press truly free?
Well, that description is relative, because some would say yes, we are free, because when you compare ourselves to other countries, even in nearby Togo and Benin and Co, the operations of the journalists are a bit, limited. But when it comes to Ghana, we have some freedom to express, some freedom to question those in authority and the rest. And so for me, I would say press freedom is relative, depending on the situation you find ourselves. And some journalists may not be comfortable when those in authority or the political players challenge their work. And when they challenge your work, it doesn't mean your freedom is being curtailed, or somebody is trying to be an affront to the press freedom. It's about we doing due diligence in our work as journalists. And I believe if you do your neat job, it's very difficult for anyone who wants to criticize or even throw it out. A typical example was a story done by my brother Manasseh Azuri on the PPA board. PPA boss, for instance. Yes, it was a good job. There were no weaknesses. There were no loopholes for anyone with an interest to want to kick against it. And
including the use of obituary.
Yeah, exactly. And so once that work is done, you had no option. You had no option to agree with the journalist that yes, indeed, things like these are happening. And I want to add that we are dealing with powerful people, powerful individuals, people who have control of so much of the system. And so as a journalist, we need to work harder. We need to be more equipped. We need to also be deep thinkers so that our words can go beyond just backing. Because when you back as a dog and you don't have an evidence, it's very difficult for people to take you serious.
Yeah.
And so if you're a journalist, that is something we should be looking at, because I think Ghana, relatively, we are peaceful. Press freedom is being promoted. What is needed is that we need to really work hard and make sure we answer all the questions on our work, so that when it comes out eventually, people would not have any reason to doubt us. And that's the real essence of journalism.
You mentioned powerful people. Politicians now are setting up television, radio stations all over the place. Do we have a reason to be worried about the increasing political ownership of the media?
Yes, my brother, it should be a worry. It should be a worry because every owner, of a media house would have interest to promote. And if that owner is a politician, definitely he would want to promote his political interest. And once one side of the political divide is being promoted on a particular media house, it means fairness may not be assured. Objectivity may not be protected. And so when you are seeing a lot of political folks capturing media houses, it should be a worry to us. It should be a worry to us because clearly our press freedom may be an attack. It may be directly or indirectly, because already, already we are finding a situation where journalists are not being motivated, journalists are not being better paid. And if you have somebody who is a politician who wants his interest to be pushed, and you are a journalist in such an organization who want to have a different view or have a different approach, obviously he has control over you, and it is not something that we should encourage. And so this gradual ownership and the takeover of our media houses should be much worry to us as practitioners and as an association.
What's your take on Solly? Anytime I have asked this question on this platform, my guests will laugh before they answer.
Well, Steve Solly, which is solidarity, and has become more of a Solly in our local terrain, is actually some sort of support for you, the journalist, to work with. Because in those days, before you come up with a story, you need to conduct research, and getting such information are not so easy at the time. You need to visit libraries to gather the right information before you put up your story. And so, in that vein, the newsman or the newsmaker would want to give you some support. That is the Solly we say. And people also see it as an out of station allowance, where once you are moving out of your media house and you are going to cover a program, you should be paid your transportation. But in my view, I don't think that should be encouraged, because if you have a media organization where you work, your out of station allowances shouldn't be paid by the event organizer or whatever event you are going to cover. It should be catered for by your media house. They should find you a means of transport out of your station. And if you need anything out of station, they should be ready to give you. Because the moment we encourage such monies from event organizers, you are largely influenced if you are not too careful. You'll be influenced by the kind of stories that you bring out depending on the money that has been given to you. And I think this brings us to the main thing of our salary uh, scheme at the
Yeah.
various media houses.
Mm.
Because if journalists are well paid, I think some of them would decline some of these packages. I know from experience when I was working with CTFM, the organization do not encourage journalists charging or demanding for transportation when they cover events, or probably hanging around after event waiting for Solly.
Envelopes.
If yeah, waiting for envelopes. So if the event organizer deem it fit to support your research towards his work, well, they can later send the money to you for that. But for you to be seen hanging and waiting for event organizers to give you money before you leave, I think it's unethical and
Mm.
it's a challenge in our system. So that's basically my view on payment of Sony.
My final question: does journalism pay?
Yes, when when someone says journalism pays, yes, uh, in terms of material possession, or in terms of what, like what
Financially and in
specifically?
every sense.
Well, financially, I don't think you should dream of becoming a billionaire or a wealthy person when
Mm.
you are a journalist,
Mm.
because if you want to have that interest in
Mm.
accruing wealth and all of that, then your field should be in the boardroom and not in the field of journalism,
Mm.
because journalism is more of a social work. You are working for the society, and when
Mm.
you work for the society, what you are paid is the social license you get from the society. People believe you, people trust you, you are able to help people put smiles on the faces of people. And I think that is the payment that you get. And it's more exciting, and it's
Mm.
worth it if
Mm.
you are paid through the smiles of the people. If you
Mm.
are if you are trusted by the people, you are able to impact lives. And I want to say journalism gives us the power to shape people's thoughts and mentality.
Mm.
And so when you are in that position we of control, of trust
Mm.
to serve the people, I think that is one of the greatest payments you will receive as a professional. But if your interest is to become filthy rich
Mm.
or a billionaire, I don't think this is a field for you, because at the end of the day, human needs are insatiable, and you'll be in conflict between your material possessions and then serving the interests of the people.
Yeah.
All right. And
Yeah.
so your first priority is to
Mm.
the people. You are serving your people, and that should be your main thing. And once you are paid through that, then you should be content with it.
I think I will not be fair to you if we don't talk voteronline.com. I am curious. Now, what is the thinking behind this vision? And what is the future, the ideal picture you are seeking to create, in the near future with it?
Thank you very much. I think the idea of Voter Online is
Mm.
to have a regional based website which covers all that matter from the region.
Mm.
And I always have this saying that when you take out news from the various regions, stations in Accra that classify themselves as national station or national media houses are just Accra stations. Because
That's
at the
true.
end of the day, you wake up in the morning and you walk to the ministry to pick releases from ministries and then do publication. But when you include the region in your coverage, that makes it national. which means that the region is very important in the whole media business or journalism business in Ghana. But we find ourselves in a situation where stories are competing and we are time bound. And so you don't expect your editor to cover all your stories or publish all the stories that you submit from your region. And I think that was what prompted us to have Volta Online. So two other colleagues of mine, one working with Daily Graphic and another one working with Daily Guide, decided to start this project where we publish the unpublished stories.
Okay.
Yeah. So as we started, we noticed people were loving it, people were following it, people who had interest in the region were following it. And we've decided to grow it bigger. And that is how come we have our baby Volta Online. And it's been an exciting journey since we started. We've had
Before
the
you
recognition
continue, I am
region.
curious. Are you covering the original Volta region or the new Volta region?
Well, the initial objective is to cover the original Volta region, and that is essentially what we do now. Maybe in the future, we may look at creating another website to also match up with the new demarcation by the state. But as it stands, the Volta Online cover the existing Volta region and the new OT region. So we cover the two.
Okay, I see. Now the Volta region, without any factual proof, I can say has a lot more tourism potential, maybe than any other region in Ghana. I stand to be corrected. Recently, there was the Volta Regional Fair, and then you have a portal that is dedicated to the region. I want to believe that about 70 or 60% of the content of your site talk about tourism sites, tourism promotion, and why people should visit the region. Am I right?
You are perfectly right, my brother. You are perfectly right. Volta Online explores every part of the region, especially in area of tourism. The Volta Fair that you talked about, we were privileged to be the main media partners. In fact, they wrote to us, the organizers wrote to us to be their main media partner. And throughout the period, our stories have all been centered around the tourism potential of the region. And somebody should visit the website. You'll see features and articles all talking about, our tourism potential. And we play a very active role during that festival to promote the region. Yes.
So what is the ideal picture you want to create with VoltaOnline.com? Let's say in the next 10 years, how do you intend to position this news portal?
In the next 10 years, as professionals who are now owning media house, we better understand our people, the condition of work and all of that. And we want to promote citizen journalism, and we want to promote the citizens supporting the work of the journalist, which means that if we notice that those from the top are manipulating what comes out eventually, then the people who are supposed to get the information should be seen supporting us so that we give them what they deserve, not what the status quo wants to be fed them. And so the Volta Online objective is to empower our citizens to support this project, to see to it that all the relevant information that they need as citizens, which will improve on their life, all the relevant platforms that we can use to empower them to hold people accountable, all the relevant platform that we can use to make things transparent to them. What is happening in my assembly? What are the development plans? What are the funds available? What do I need to do as a citizen? What are my responsibilities? All those things will be captured in Volta Online. And again, if you are a young business growing in the Volta region, I think this is the right platform for you. And also, if you are a business who intend to explore Volta region as a new market, this is the right platform for you because it's a holistic website. When you visit our website, we talk about politics, we talk about business, we talk about lifestyle, sports, we talk about our features. That's putting spotlight on tourism areas in the region and also personalities in the region. And so this is it's a big project. And we believe that in 20 years, this is supposed to set the ground rules for press freedom, if not for Ghana, at least for Volta region, as we touch the rest of the country.
King Nobert Akpablie has been my guest. One of three brains behind VoltaOnline.com, the one-stop shop for every information on the Volta region. For those who do not know, Ghana's Volta region is the closest region that shares boundary to our east with Togo. Now, the region is blessed with a lot of tourism potentials and tourist sites. The highest peak in Ghana is in Volta region, Afajetu. When you go there, all you need is to have enough money because I tell you, the tourism baits might just make you empty your bank account. So make it a point to maybe once in a year or anytime you want to have a vacation away from the noise of Accra or the big cities, choose Volta region and you will thank me later. This has been PENSDOWN. My colleague has shared his experiences, his journey, how he started, how he's been going, some of the challenges, the high moments, and also plans for the future. We are back next time with another edition. I'll have another colleague here and we'll talk their journalism journey. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye.